What if improving your brain function had less to do about medication and more about training your mind, your body, your nervous system all together? What if you could do this from the privacy of your own home? You've heard me talk about neurofeedback, and that is so important and very crucial. But, you know, it's not one size fits all. Something will resonate. So today I am bringing back a tool that I've used for a long time. As a matter of fact, I have it right here, and it's not fully charged, but it's almost charged. But it's called BrainTap. BrainTap has been part of my life for a while, and so has Patrick Porter, PhD. Dr. Porter has been very instrumental of bringing this rewiring of the brain back into our own power. Are you interested? Are you curious? Because it's been about, I don't know, 5 years, 4 years
Yes.
since Dr. Patrick Porter has been in the classroom, and I am grateful that he's back. And so take your pencils, get your papers, get ready to write lots of notes because we're going to learn and grow together.
And when you need a friend, you can count on me. I'll be right here waiting for you.
Hi, my name is Lily McDermott, and I am a certified life coach, a certified holistic cancer coach, and the host of the Lily McDermott radio show. If this is your first time in the classroom, please know I've been waiting for you. This is a safe place where you can go when you need a friend. It is my commitment to provide natural ways to heal, and it is my mission to make awareness, responsibility, and truth a part of our everyday life. And I hope you, my listening, as well as my viewing friend, will feel empowered to embrace a new truth and live the life of your dreams. Well, I'm really excited because, it's been a while. And I think God is bringing back people into the show, into the classroom, people that have been crucial in me learning more about my brain, who I am. And I've had the pleasure of being in California with Dr. Patrick Porter, and doing exercises with him and having fun and laughing. And now I get to bring him back to you. And since it is our sole purpose in life to give and receive love and knowledge, I am grateful that Dr. Patrick Porter is here to do just that. Welcome back to the classroom, Dr. Porter. I'm so glad that you're here.
Hey, that's great. I didn't know it was that long because I've been following your social media, watching some of the people you have in the classroom. I mean, you had some great guests.
Well,
And
thank you.
so I listen to them a lot when I'm traveling and things like that because I have to have something to watch and I don't like TV really because it's so filled with drug commercials and negative programming that I look for to feed my brain if I'm going to watch something. I want something that's going to be
Aw,
educational. So you've done a great job. It feels
thank
like we
you.
just spoke yesterday.
I
So
know, I know from the moment we said hello again. Yeah, it's been a while, and I am just so grateful that you're here. It's been since 2021, as a matter of fact, because I went back to see, God, how long has it been since we've been together here again? Because you were the first one to teach me about neuroplasticity and the fact that we can rewire the brain. And eventually I've done other classes with neurofeedback, and I really thought, biofeedback, neurofeedback, that they were different, but we can benefit from both. So share a little bit about your background. Since this is your first time in 5 years, I would
sure.
love for you to share a little bit about your background and what drove you to the passion, because I remember listening to Brain Tap, and just your voice is like a voice from heaven. You can just relax and trust that your brain is doing exactly what it needs to do in the privacy of your own home. So share a little bit about your background and what brought you to this moment here today.
Sure. Well, my dad was a Silva instructor, the Silva method, and the church actually came over and said, "Michael, we're going to teach you to de-stress so you can stop drinking." And he thought it was a joke, but he went to that seminar, came home, and never drank again. And he said, "Hey, if this is good enough for me, the chances of 9 kids, 7 of us being alcoholics was pretty high. Well, we're lucky none of us were because he started teaching us to take responsibility. And one of the things I think that really shifted my life was there's a book called As a Man Thinketh. And when I was younger, my dad changed his whole parenting philosophy. when we got in trouble, he didn't send us to our room to think about what we did. This doesn't work. Prisons don't work because they don't educate them. You don't get sent to your room to think about what you did. What he did is said, look over there on the wall, all my self-help books, go pick one out, read a chapter, come back and tell me how you're going to apply that in your life, and then I'll let you play today. And I got in trouble a lot. So I read a lot of those books, and that book stuck with me. I still once a year read that book, even though it's a really small book. But basically it tells you that what you own in your heart, you become in your life, in that God has a promise for you.
Yes.
And then for me in the 80s, I was hospitalized. I had a chemical pneumonia poisoning. I don't even know if you know this story. And I was healed because my sister was praying for me, and something came into my hotel room, Holy Spirit or whatever you want to call it, and told me to sleep. I couldn't sleep. I was up for 2 weeks, really. I couldn't sleep more than 20 minutes. And they were going to do a full blood transfusion on me on the next day. Well, after that, and I didn't hear anything else. I didn't have any big sermon or anything like that. Just go to sleep. And I'm thinking, I've been trying to go to sleep. But that night I went to sleep. When the doctors came in at 10 in the morning, because they had to wake me up, they pulled my blood, and they pulled my blood again, and they said, there's nothing in your bloodstream. They kept me in the hospital for 2 months to figure out how they healed me. Now, I didn't tell them that something came into my hotel room and healed me, because I didn't know, I was brought up Catholic. So,
Yeah.
if the Pope didn't say it, I didn't believe it. That's the way that it went.
Hey, but the
And,
Holy Spirit came onto Mary, and that's how Jesus was born. So
right.
there you go.
And literally, if you'd have known me then, the next day after that happened, of course, my dad, all the training, the intertime talk, I went to school for electronics, but I just do what I do now. It's like I was downloaded, is what I tell people. And when somebody says, what do you mean? I says, well, it's not me. It's the Father within. He's doing the work, because I don't have to think about it. Just the work happens. And I started a practice. And for me, which a lot of people struggle to get clients, I had 160 clients a day coming through my office, and I had to figure out a way, how can I see so many people? Because all I have to do is put my shingle out in whatever town I'm in. And we had 108 locations, and the average location had over 100 people a day coming through. Because when you help people, they come, and when you get a result. And so that's when we started making the light and sound machine that we have. I was actually at the same time working with a company called Light and Sound Research. And so that led to, I sold that company, and I thought I was retired, but then 2008 happened, as some people know. And then so I'm back working, and I thought, I have the money and I have the ability. I want to redo this device that was called the MC Square at the time. So then I upgraded it, and we created what is now BrainTap. And instead of changing its name like the old machines, I made 16 of them. But every time we changed the machine, we had to remarket. We didn't know about marketing at the time. So now we've kept BrainTap since 2012. We have 120,000 users out there on our user base. 40,000 of them are paid users, and that means that they're paying every month. And to me, we're looking at different ways to educate them, like what you do, because I believe education is the key to transformation. When you don't know what you don't know, that's the most dangerous part. And I think most people don't realize how powerful they are, that there's a power inside of them. If they activate it, it can do incredible things of importance for them. And so our whole mission, even with my new book, I have a new book Hay House put out called Brain Fitness Blueprint just in October. And that book's getting a lot of legs, because what we did is we show people a 30-day plan, not BrainTap. It's not like all about BrainTap. It's about what can you do in your everyday life. And we can share some of those tips here. But the reality is, it's not what you do occasionally. It's what you do daily. So what is your daily ritual to improve the quality of your health and your life? And we talked a little bit about it. If they go back and watch that old show, they're going to see Fat Pat, because I was 60 pounds heavier. And so, in what happened to me was, I was all about the brain, but then we started getting into this biohacking, and I'm standing in front of these guys that are so buff, but they have their brain's not there. And somebody questioned me, and they said, hey, if you know so much about this, why do you look like this? And I'm like, well, I didn't connect the two, even though I knew about it. So I had to, there's Deepak Chopra says it best. He says 97% of what's going to happen to you tomorrow, you know about today. What are you pretending not to know? So I was pretending not to know what was causing my weight. And it was me. I was eating because I was traveling, right? I was traveling so much, speaking. And I'd always been thin when I had my companies, because I'm seeing clients. But when you're just going and traveling and speaking, and you're eating at the best restaurants, and everybody wants to wine and dine you, although I don't
Yes.
drink. but they want to, they want to celebrate with you. I just started saying no. And I started saying my morning ritual. If you win the morning, you win the day. And so, so for me, I'm always learning. I tell people every morning for me is the first day of school. I smell the erasers, I smell the ink, I'm ready to go. And the biggest thing for learning is I don't know anything today. I won't know it until God wants me to know what I need to know today. Because if I think I know what I'm going to learn or do, you know, life is the school, the university that we're going to, and you can play in kindergarten or you can go to graduate level. There's a saying that God doesn't give you anything you can't handle. Cynthia has a shirt that I got her. It says, God must think I'm a badass. It says that quote, and it says, God must think I'm a badass. So, when you think about, everything that's going on in their lives, this is one thing one saying that I have since we spoke before. I said, when you wake up in the morning and you're at the 100-yard hard line and you look down the track and you go, what do you mean I'm running the 100-yard dash? I didn't train for this. Well, most people didn't train for their life. Mm-hmm. And then they blame it on their higher power or God, whatever, or their family genetics. The reality is that what we know about genetics, and we can talk a little bit about that now because this is changing every day. The MIT has proven that our body, if I could take, Lily, your DNA and staple it to the floor, it would reach to Pluto. And it's a viscous material that we now know, and this is science, this isn't belief, save that for Sunday morning. This is science. What MIT proved was we are pulling codes from the center of the universe that tell our body what to do. Now we look at our sun, which is a star that's beaming information to our body. We call it the circadian rhythm. Mm-hmm. But it's the interaction. That's why if we don't get out in sunlight, we don't have that, Dr. Sunshine, we need that. Our body needs that. And so when we talk about using light, sound, and vibration, we're mimicking nature. It's not something, we're not making something synthetic. This is the way your brain works, your body works, your mitochondria works. Right now, as we sit here, the reason I see you and you see me is my mitochondria is broadcasting 10 nanometer light out of you that projects you into this reality. Because the cell, now if those cells aren't getting the energy to output, we all have that friend that walks in the room, they go, oh, it's just a little bit darker, because they're like a Debbie Downer. But you want to be, we know that one of the studies they did actually during COVID was they took people that looked at COVID as a threat and others that looked at it as a challenge. And when the people that looked at it as a threat actually down-regulated their nervous system, 200 times less light. We can measure light emission from the body. Wow. And for those that don't believe me, go to NIH when we're off this call, type in biofield. In NIH back in 1994, they did a whole study, and I actually met the woman that brought that to NIH. It was so exciting just here a few months ago. And they proved that we have a field of energy around everyone. We see it with Jesus and the saints, they all have that. They just have more energy. They're pumping out more energy. So when we use infrared light to heal, you're an infrared light generator. And they found that when you're with another person of like mind, that field increases. So when Jesus said, when two or more are gathered, there I am. Yeah. So when you think about this energy that we have this powerful energy. So we have to really guard against who we spend time with.
Yes.
What are we eating foods that cost us energy? Because one of the things most people don't realize, and we now know in science, is that it's an energy equation with the brain. Mm-hmm. When we were born, you were the smartest person you're ever going to be. You had 18.1 volts in your brain. You had a 100 billion neurobit processor. Then a process called neuropruning happens. That's why in the Catholic Church, in the Benedictine monks, they said, give me a child till they're 7, I'll give you a Catholic for life. Because this upbringing. So that neuropruning happens. And then it's almost like when you talk about people, I like Apple, I like Microsoft, we get formatted. We have to break that up. There's something called neurogenesis. So what we want to do is figure out how can we have neurogenesis? And like what you're saying is have the life that you want now. Don't wait, because most of what you want is an emotional response, energy and motion. You want the energy to have the motion, to have the life that you desire. And it starts first with your brain, moves down your spine, which is the keyboard of the brain, out to your body, which gives the limbs. Your muscles don't do anything. You can work out all you want, and your brain's not going to function much better, but you will get something called BDNF. which is called brain-derived neurotropic factors. So when you work out, think of it as miracle growth for the brain. So we all know that person that was really negative and maybe sat around, wasn't too good. Then they started working out and they became a real positive, optimistic person because we are designed to heal. Your body's designed to heal, your brain's designed to heal. But if we don't change the field, so let me just explain this and then we'll move on. Imagine this is a metaphor. So imagine that you're a fish tank, okay? And this fish tank is dirty. It's not operating right. But inside the fish tank, we have these little fish running around. One is your heart, one is your liver, one is your kidneys, one is your ankles, your elbow, wherever you have pain in your body. So you take that fish out of the fish tank, you fix it. But then you put it right back into the fish tank. That fish is going to get dirty again and it's going to not heal. So we're talking about with BrainTap changing the field. And then we call it frequency. I'm part of there's a new documentary coming out that I'm part of. It's called Frequency, the Science of Everything. And what I tell people is you are your frequency. When somebody goes, well, what's my frequency? It's what you frequently see. So what do you frequently see? That's your frequency. So if you're running around seeing all negativity and you're watching the news and you're believing all the hype and you're believing the story, the reality is there's more good news in your neighborhood. They have to scour the whole planet to give us enough fear-based news to keep people programmed in fear-based so they can manipulate them and control them and cause them not to think. So we really need thinkers in the world today.
Yeah.
And if you think it through, most of the intelligent people during COVID, I always tell people, it looks like the more intelligent somebody becomes, the dumber they become because they just start believing their own narrative. The reality is that we don't know, we can't know everything. God knows everything. We don't know everything. Mm-hmm. We know what we need to know to get through the day and do what we need to do. But most people do this. Let's say I'm Superman and you're Lex Luthor. We're having dinner. And I pull out kryptonite out of my back pocket. And I say, Lex, this is kryptonite. This disempowers me. No, he wouldn't do that. He would put it in a lead box, hide it away in a safe, wouldn't tell anybody. But people take their limited beliefs, their aches and pains, all their problems, and they immediately share them with everybody. And then they wonder why they're devalued and they're crippled because they're giving everybody their kryptonite. We need to hide our kryptonite, go through the dark night of the soul, get your superpower. And what I mean by that is, let's say you're an alcoholic, like my dad, and you learn that through stress reduction techniques, whether it's neurofeedback, BrainTap, whatever they use, or meditation, whatever they're going to use, prayer, and they get through it. Now they can say no to alcohol. That's a superpower. Now you can go help other people because you know how to activate your superpower. We're here together. No one gets out of here alive. So what are we going to do to help somebody else? Because the equation is pretty simple. If we don't help other people, we won't be healthy. The blue zone theory has proven that. If we don't have a good community and we're not of service, we're not going to live very long. In fact, I always tell people, they go, well, negative this, negative that. I'm around. I said, you don't have to worry about those negative people. Science has proved they're going to live 6 to 12 years less than you are. If you want to live longer, just become optimistic and positive. And people always tell me all the time, Porter, you're too damn positive. And I said, I would rather be positive and disappointed every once in a while than be negative every day and miss out on the opportunity to be positive.
Right. Absolutely. I totally agree with you. And there is just so much that I am just wanted to sit with everything that you said. It is what I believe and the way I live my life. I know that people have accused me of being light. And to me, that is a compliment. But then there are people who don't like me, and it's
Right.
because they can't stand to look at the light. And
Right.
so we need to decide, do we want to be the light? Do we want to be darkness? And it really is up to us. And it is about how we're looking at things. I love
Right.
that example of the challenge versus, a threat.
Right.
And when we change, this is my favorite Max Planck quote. As a matter
Yeah.
of fact, the first time I heard it, it was Dr. Wayne Dyer who said it. But he never gave Max Planck credit, but I'm giving Max Planck credit because I researched it.
Mhm.
And Max Planck said, when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change.
Yes.
What I didn't understand back then that I do now after meeting you many, many years ago and going through all the transformations of getting muscles and all that stuff that, now I'm learning about something else that you're doing. I'm all in. But that we are brought together for the greater good. And if you live life trying to create win-win everywhere you go, then life becomes peaceful and loving, and we can accomplish more. But if you're always going out there to look at how is somebody going to screw you, how are you going to screw somebody else, and when you're living life like that, like you said, life, they're going to end up sick. They're going
Right.
to end up
They're going to
sick.
have sympathetic syndrome.
Hmm.
But one thing I want to tell you is that you're not wrong. You are light because of the electron transport chain.
Yes.
That's our human body.
Yeah,
When you look at that,
yes, go ahead, keep
everything we
going.
eat, everything we drink, every sound we hear, everything is being converted into electrical energy and impulses. This is just a suit we wear. The reality of who we are is the animator of this suit, and it was gifted to us by God. So how do you take care of this body?
That's right.
That's your gift back to God. God gave you a gift. How do you feel when you give somebody a gift and then they just give it right back to you?
Yeah.
You have a superpower. Everybody has a superpower. And that's why in like my first book called Awaken the Genius, I say most people don't realize genius, the word is actually Roman mythology. It says every one of us has these talents and skills and they're housed by your genie. That's what they believe because it's mythology. So you have these genies. If you use these genies, they call you a genius. It didn't say you were good at math and science. It said there are some people who are geniuses with automobiles. There's some people who are geniuses with uh, doing accounting. Things that I don't want to do. They're really good. I want to be friends with them, and I want to activate their genius. So you don't have
Oh,
to think.
isn't that what Henry Ford did?
Yes, exactly.
It's not
He didn't
Henry
have to be
Ford.
the smartest guy in the room. He just had to surround
Surround
himself with
himself
the
with it.
smartest people in the room.
Absolutely. Okay, so it's so nice, and I'm sure that everybody's just absolutely loving your energy and your light as well as I want to introduce BrainTap. Today, our class is all about holistic brain fitness. And I know that so many, as you know, my registered service mark is you could take a pill, you could take responsibility. And for the year 2026, I want 2026 to be our best year ever. And as we are looking at brain fitness and many people think that they have to take pills for depression and pills to be happy or pills to wake up or pills to go to sleep. I want for people to understand through BrainTap and the work that you're doing that with frequency and energy and light and all those things that BrainTap puts together. And
Mhm.
I've done so many classes with you that I've thoroughly enjoyed. Um, that how does this product, how does BrainTap actually work in rewiring and reprogramming the brain?
Well, it's working in science called frequency following response. So every cell of your body has something called a mirror neuron. And what they've proven in science now, this isn't my belief, in science is those mirror neurons are listening to everything. So somebody says, what do you need to change? It's mostly your environment, internal environment, like what are you saying to yourself, external environment, how do you run your life? Who do you surround yourself with? Are you around screens? All these things are really true. But the reality is you can't have a pill without a skill. So you can take the pill, but the real also when you take a pill, what you're doing is you're activating the world's greatest pharmacy to react to that pill. That reaction could happen without that pill. In fact, if they took SSRIs and put them on the market today, they wouldn't even beat out placebo. They have never done it. And they were only approved for 14 days of use. So imagine that. And people are told by their doctors after 28 days, they'll start to work. No, after 28 days, you become dependent on it. So I'm not telling anybody to get off their medicine without going to their doctor. But the reality is that you own the world's greatest pharmacy. God gifted you that at birth. You can create 30,000 different neurochemicals with just a simple thought. And how does that happen with BrainTap? So light. Our eyes have more mitochondria per square centimeter than any other area of the body. Mitochondria's job is to absorb light energy and transmit it out to the body as codes to the body to tell it what to do. Your body, remember the electron transport chain. It starts with first converting everything into energy that the cells can use. Those mitochondria that aren't even you, their mitochondria, they absorb that light energy. They broadcast it out to the body to instruct it. Now imagine if you're producing 200 times less light energy and you're supposed to broadcast that energy across the gymnasium, but you can only get it to the free throw line. You can't give the right signal. So this causes an imbalance in the body. But how light works through the eyes and through the ears. Now, a lot of people look at our heads and go, what in the world do you have lights in the ears for? Well, every cell of your body has also something called a chromophore. This is a battery. If you want to think about it, and now it's not exactly a battery, but it works like a battery. It works on a charge. Now, how does it work with sound? If you've probably been to a party before or celebration or church, and somebody didn't really be there, but then they started singing and dancing, and pretty soon they're up dancing, they're moving their feet, they go, hey, I didn't think you wanted to be here. Well, they're doing things I love to do, or they're singing songs I like to sing, because the body is converting that sound energy into mitochondrial energy that broadcasts through the body and tells it, we have to move and breathe. So our bodies don't function without movement and breath. So what happens with us is we're going to synchronize that light with the sound through the ears. Now, the ears themselves, all the blood in your body moves through your ears every 3 to 5 minutes. So if we want to bring light energy, photon energy, that's what your cells do. This photic energy goes into the hemoglobin, circulates directly into the brain. If it can get to a cell before it dies, apoptosis happens, that cell will actually absorb that energy. It will start something called the Krebs cycle. That Krebs cycle then returns that cell back to its natal self. It returns it to its original self. So imagine that. You're not reversing aging. There's no reason for us to age at all. They've already proven this. Harvard did a study with chicken hearts. I wrote a whole article about it on the internet. They kept it alive for over 35 years. And if the janitor wouldn't have turned the lights off, it would still be alive today, because it needed light energy and it needed the toxins out. So there's 4 reasons the brain doesn't work: thoughts, traumas, toxins, and technology. So if you don't deal with all of those 4, you're not going to solve the problem with the brain. Now, technology is great. We have a problem in the world today with technology, so we need a scalable solution that can be taken across the globe. That's why we invented BrainTap, because it's scalable. We can use an app. Your phone can be your best friend or it can be your liability. So we put it on the app because now, imagine, just for a moment, you're in medical school. It's 2015. You're going through the physiology book. It mentions nothing about these areas of the brain. It just says this is the physiology, how it works. But then somebody in a lab somewhere, I can't remember the doctor's name, but it's in American Scientific, and he finds out that there's a system of the body called the glial lymphatic system that only operates during level 4 sleep. And 2/3 of the world isn't sleeping. Imagine that. That's creating toxic backup, toxic load. Those toxins, imagine you're looking through the screen of your computer or your glasses, but you got a lot of fog between your eyes and the glasses. You're not going to see very much. That toxin is going to stop the communication in the brain. Mm-hmm. Now, what we're going to do when that mitochondria gets that energy, it has a blast of light. And that's its job. Absorb, just like we respirate, every cell respirates. But if you're in a sympathetic drive situation, those cells go into something called the cell danger response. So I tell people it's like you're at the campfire and they go, there's a fire under there, but there's a bunch of smoldering logs and leaves on top of it. The fire is under there, but you can't get to it. We got to get those logs out of there. We got to detox. We got to do something to detox the body. And then we've got to put the right kind of fuel on the fire. You know, the old expression of the guy that's about to, his wife says, you've been building houses for this guy for 50 years. It's time to retire. So he goes to the builder and he says, you know what? I'm done. My wife says, I'm done. I built enough houses for you. He says, you know what? I want you to only build me one more house. He says, I don't have time to build that house. He says, no, just one more house. You can do it as fast as you want. You can use whatever you want. You can use the best workers you want. So he went out, found the cheapest workers, the cheapest labor, the cheapest materials. He built this house so fast. He brought it back to the owner. He said, there you go. There's your last house. He goes, no, you keep the keys. That's my gift to you for working for me for 50 years. What? You didn't tell me that was going to be my house. That's what people wake up to at 55, 60 years old. They go, what? You didn't tell me I was going to live that long. So we need to live our life as if today is our last day. Tell that loved one you love them. Do the things you really want to do, but plan your life like you're going to live forever. And most people overlook their brain. That's why we now call it brain fitness. We don't call it A lot of people, we have to do things to maximize our brain function. And the nice thing is in Florida, I think you live in Florida, right?
Yeah.
In Florida, Dr. Kelly Miller, he actually wrote a book about it now called Saving Your Brain, where we did a study with BrainTap, and it's now a bigger study at Seminole College. Every person in the study, as soon as we got their brain score up over 7, remember I said you were born at 18.1 volts.
Mm-hmm.
As soon as their brain voltage went below 7, they had dementia symptoms.
Oof.
If it drops below 4, they have Alzheimer's symptoms. But with light, sound, and vibration, proper diet, movement, and consistency, 3 times a day, you need to do brain fitness at first. Now, you don't have to do it after that, but it's like getting an airplane off the ground. You got to do a little bit more. Think about your morning. If you and I were in a tribe 2,000 years ago and we were waking up in Israel or whatever, and we're waking up we're not going to have coffee and all these things. The light from the sun's going to come up. It's going to wake us up. We're going to be a little nervous. We're part of the food chain. So here we go. Now, what happens here in America and around the world is people get up and have a cup of coffee, first of all. That's the worst thing you can do for your brain first thing in the morning. Your brain shrunk 3/4 of an inch while you slept. Think of your brain like a sponge, and that detox is happening, and as long as your brain can breathe, and it should be breathing, it's very, you can't really tell it, but the fluid from your spine, that spinal fluid is coming over, washing over the glia cells. So think of the glia cells like we're at a networking party, we're shaking everybody's hands. At the end of that party, we're going to want to wash our hands. Well, that's what happens all day long. But these glia cells stay stuck together. So if they don't ever detox, they never unwind. So the same thoughts get thought. When Deepak said 97% you thought about today, he also went on to say those same 97% of thoughts you had 6 months ago. So we need to unwind those, and that happens during sleep. That's when you incubate those superpowers. So at night, we need to downregulate. We need to get the body into the downregulation, get them into level 4 sleep, and you need to have at least a minimum of an hour of deep sleep, 2 hours of REM sleep. If you do, you'll be like my wife. Cynthia likes to brag all the time because she gets 93, 95 sleep scores, and because she does BrainTap, but also because she knows how to sleep.
Where does she monitor the score? How do you monitor
It's
the
on
score?
the Oura Ring is where she gets hers. So,
okay.
and I'm currently doing a whole series with Dr. Amon's sleep doctor, Dr. Credo, and we're calling it Sleep Like a Champion. Because it's
busy.
it's not something you don't do. It's something you have to do. It used to be we would brag, oh, I only sleep 4 hours. I only sleep 6 hours. No, you might. So people understand it's not 8 hours. It might be 8 hours for you, but it's not 8 hours. The studies have shown longevity, 6.5 hours is optimal.
Yes.
But 1 hour of deep sleep and 2 hours of REM sleep. We did a study in Australia. I don't know if we had that study when we spoke before, but we took Australian coal miners because they said that the light that I have would hurt the circadian rhythm. It doesn't. We've proven on jets that we reverse jet lag because it's not jet lag, it's light lag. The body's not getting the light. But we did a pre-study before we did the study. The average coal miner spent 10 hours a day in bed. They got 1 minute of deep sleep on average. Virtually no REM. They weren't sleeping. They were just in bed. Once we taught them what to do with BrainTap and taught their brain how to change with brainwave entrainment, within 3 weeks, they were scoring at 70% and greater. The group that didn't use the headset, that only used the app, it took them 6 weeks to do that. Just like the dementia study, it took 6 weeks for the brain 3 times a day. So in the middle of the day, some of you listening might be going, in the middle of the day, I'm just dragging. I'm getting old. No, your body is responding to the circadian rhythm of the planet. When you first wake up, your cortisol levels should be high. You should be a little anxious. It's the first day of school. Here you go. What are you going to do? Now, by 2 o'clock, it drops. We're the only culture in history before this revolution we had with the Industrial Revolution that worked past 2 o'clock. Because our genetics, we track our genetics back. Everybody's genetics goes back to the Serengeti. And at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, there's not much going on in the Serengeti. The lion's sleeping over there, the zebra's over here, and they're saying, hey, we're going to play later. I'm tired. I'm not going to get out in that sun. In this genetic makeup, when Hopi Indians said 7 generations of our ancestors are guiding us, and MIT within the last year proved 7 generations of our ancestors are really changing our DNA. Now, remember back in 2003, they said, hey, we mapped the human genome. And they said, guess what? You're 99% junk. And I always say, well, God didn't make no junk.
Nope.
What are you talking about? So that 99% must be something. Well, in 2018, again, like 2015, 2018, a scientist finds out they have equipment that actually shows that your DNA, every DNA pair in your body changes every 40 seconds. You are a different person. So I like to tell people, I'm looking out my window and I see the Neuse River. It looks pretty much like the same Neuse River that was there yesterday. But that's not the same Neuse River. That's new water. That's different fish. That's different sediment at the bottom. It looks like the same Neuse River, but it's not. That's like us. We get up in the morning, we look at the mirror, we think we look the same, we act the same, we have the same hairdo, whatever's going on. But the reality is that we're different.
Yeah.
And even on a physiological level, every person listening to this, you have died thousands of times since the moment you were born because there's not a cell in your body that's older than 7 years. And as we're speaking, 50 million cells per second are dying off and you're rebuilding them. You can do the same thing with your neurons, that neurogenesis. You can create the new brain you want today by doing the things that will create that brain. Now, if you're so locked into the past, believing that this isn't possible, that you have a fixed brain, that you're just not smart enough, good enough, you can't do these things, then the brain goes, you know what? They know that 3,200 gene expressions are changed just by the words you choose. You can disempower yourself when we need it the most, right? If you look at life, and I always tell people, if you think life is happening to you, you will always be a victim. You will always be disempowered. But if you believe life is happening through you, you'll be empowered and you'll take advantage and you take responsibility for whatever happens to you. Nobody did anything to you. You allowed it to happen. And by allowing it to happen, now sometimes we have to make course corrections and, there are bad people in the world. But in the reality is, though, how do we respond to that? How do we look at that? Is it a learned lesson? And that's what nighttime sleep does. If you're not sleeping well, you can't compartmentalize, organize, and plan your next day. Because most people, remember I said when you wake up in the morning, you're standing at the 100-yard dash. I didn't train for this race. No, you trained for the human race. And every day you got to put on your sneakers and go on that race. And if you're not training for it, you can't blame God. You can't blame your parents' genetics. You can't blame anybody. You have to take responsibility and start training today because you don't need a breakdown to have a breakthrough. You can break through your life right now. And you're doing it every week when you do your classroom. I mean, you're teaching them things. I tune into it because you have people on there. I mean, you had some during the COVID time there. You had some pretty exceptional people that wouldn't be on any others. They wouldn't be on NBC or CBS.
No.
I'm trying to think of the guy from Europe that
David.
Yeah, David Icke. I bought all his books and followed him. I mean, I didn't even know this guy existed. I'm going,
He came
wow.
on 3 times. He came on 3 times, David Icke. He was so funny. I remember back then we used to dance on the show.
Yes.
And I said, David, let me explain to you how we get started. And he very sternly, very British, because and you, Patrick, you would just go all out. And he said, you do you, I do me. And he was like he did not move.
Yeah, it was funny. It was funny. You could see it was like he was like.
And I'm like, okay, but we don't dance in the classroom. I dance after the classroom. And Patrick, this is just, I'm just like every cell of my body has been reignited. I am so grateful that you're here today, and I want to encourage all of you because we've just basically talking about the concept of what BrainTap is all about, the concept of our brain and how powerful we are. But I want to take you guys to whenyouneedafriend.com. I want you to understand that at whenyouneedafriend.com, we take ownership for our life. That example that Patrick, that Dr. Porter said, which is, here's the key to the house you built. Mm-hmm. And, who would you give that key to? Who do you allow into that home, that temple? We allow so many things into our temple that if we knew they were terrorists, wouldn't allow them in. So I want to encourage you to sit back and listen to this video, this class over and over again and see, where am I allowing all these terrorists into my body? And what do I believe? And start changing, start the process, or be willing Just be willing to start the process because that's all you need. I remember I was asked to, and one of the times that I did see Patrick, I was in California. We went to hike a mountain up in California. And I remember saying, how am I going to climb this mountain? But it was one step at a time. It
Right.
was one step at a time. And this is what I want to encourage you for 2026. So go to whenyouneedafriend.com. Please subscribe to the website. Do whatever you can to help the classroom grow, whether it's to share it, write emojis, make comments, get the algorithms to get out of the way so that everybody knows that when Jesus breathed into the disciples' nostrils and he said, receive the Spirit, receive, you will be able to do this and more, that we all hold that key. What's the this and what's the more that you're willing to give forward or step forward into? And so I want to encourage you to go check out whenyouneedafriend.com. When you do subscribe to the website, make sure you opt in. So you got to go to your website and then opt into the website because we follow all the rules. So make sure you do the same. And then check out all the different classrooms the classes in the classroom, the different topics. So if you're looking for a topic, and today, and I know that in the past, BrainTap has had a 15-day trial, and I want to
Yeah, we
see if
still
they
have
still
that.
have
Yeah.
that. Okay, so we still have that, and so I'm excited about that, and the link will be below. Also want to encourage you that if you want to be a part of the classroom, I no longer have sponsors, and we rely on the generosity of all of you who are tuning in. So if you can donate $1, $1,000 a month, a one-time a donation or a recurring donation, or just donate that cafe latte that you decided not to pay for today and you're going to send it to the classroom. Whatever you can do to help us grow, we are appreciative, whether it's your time, your talent, your treasure. Today we have Dr. Patrick Porter in the classroom. I am just so excited and I'm just thrilled that we, after 5 years, are back together and that this will be the first of many. Because as you know, I understand the importance of retraining the brain. And
Mhm.
Patrick, I am so grateful to you for teaching us how to do this. This is your passion.
Mhm.
And after all these years that I've known you, you're even more passionate and you're living it too, through your spirit, your body, your mind, all of that. And so good on you, good for
Mhm.
you. I'm very happy for you. And so the 15-day trial, I've got the link attached to the description for those of you who want to try this. So I show the headset for BrainTap,
Mhm.
which I love, but you don't need this headset,
No.
correct? You can
You
use
can
your
do it. You can
own
do it without it. It just takes a little bit longer.
little longer.
And so, but you can. I always tell people because two-thirds of the world isn't sleeping. Start doing that 21 day. We now have a 21-day protocol
Okay.
that's a quick start guide. You don't have to think. Just do those 20. Just do that 21 days or the first 14 days. If you don't like it, you're not going to get charged. It's going to. If you have to go to the 15th day to be charged. So if you cancel it before the 14th day, or if you can't trust yourself, cancel it before then. But whatever's going on, use it because 90% of the people respond back to us and say, "Hey, I'm sleeping better," even without the headset. Now the headset supercharges it, but if you don't, you can't afford the headset or whatever, then and we once you sign up, you'll always have access to our premium model, our freemium we call it. So you'll have
Mhm.
access to sessions to help your brain and help you grow as a person.
And so that people understand, you will be hearing, because my favorite are the ones that Patrick Porter is on. And you hear his voice and he takes you through a guided meditation that will help you reach that. Like I am not someone who can sit there for 40 minutes with no thought in my mind, but
No.
I can sit there for hours and listen to Patrick, and train my brain. And I know that and then there's sound, and if the frequency, everything just works together. Explain a little bit more about that and how it
Sure.
works, how
So
BrainTap
if you
works.
think of a symphony, you can go listen to one instrument and it sounds really good. But
Mhm.
imagine you have a chorus and you have all the other pieces of that symphony. So what we've done is we have sounds called binaural beats. And these have been around since the 1700s. So it's not like I didn't create them. What I did was I found out the algorithm because when I work with light and sound research, we could use biofeedback and neurofeedback and EEG and QEEG eventually to show how fast can the brain move from where you're at now to where you're going to go. So, but then we found out that if you don't have perfect hearing, binaural beats don't work that well because the brain is dysregulated. Remember, I talked about the 7 volts. When it drops below 7 volts, they also had the right hemisphere and left hemisphere were out of phase. So think of these brain waves like Wi-Fi networks, and they're not, if they're out of phase in voltage, they don't communicate. That's why that's why we have memory problems and balance problems and all these things. It's called the vestibular system, and it's actually a brainwave called SMR, sensory motor rhythm. So we train that first. That's the first level training. Now, what we did is there's something called isochronic tones. Now, everyone here has already experienced isochronic tones before because they are mimicked in nature everywhere. If you and I were to go to the ocean and sit down and we'd just be sitting there, we'd start to relax because the ocean has an evoked potential of 10 hertz. That's alpha. Now, each of these brainwaves I'm talking about trigger neurotransmitters. So what most people find out is they wake up in the morning because they didn't sleep well. All their neurotransmitters are used up by 11 o'clock in the morning. They can't think after that. That's because those transmitters are actually the connectors to, when you think a thought, that neuron sends out a signal as energy and it connects to another one. That's why Hebb's law says those neurons that fire together wire together. Those neurons that don't fire together unwire. So these dendrite connections are done with neurotransmitters. So if you want to feel good, you have oxytocin, acetylcholine, all of these things that you would need. And so the brain, they're all triggered by brain waves. So if you're not going into these different brainwave states, when we were out in nature and we were in that ancient culture, we would climb the mountain. And when we climb that mountain, we'd be at 7.8 hertz frequency. That happens to be theta. Theta produces something called GABA. GABA is the precursor to something called DMT, what they call in the world of physiology, the God molecule. Because if you get enough DMT, it's also what is the most DMT is released at the moment of death. So when you think about if you could release this molecule that heals the body spontaneously, you have access to that if the right environment. So we take you now, if you're into gamma too, gamma also creates the GABA response. Now between those, there's beta. Beta creates, the cortisol and the dopamine. And you have to remember, dopamine never pays you off. It's kind of like the devil. It gives you a lot of promises, but it doesn't pay you off. It just keeps teasing you. And I like to tell people, there is no there. You're not going to listen to BrainTap and be fixed. You are ever changing. Remember, I look at the river. That looks like the Neuse River. It's not the Neuse River. And I look at you. You're a different person. I get to meet a new you every moment. And that old you dies away. But so many people, I call it the dragons of the past because they take all their habits and patterns and they drag them with them. They're dragons. I call them dragons. So when you think about we want to slay the dragons, leave them in the past where they belong. You did the best you could. Forgive yourself. Yeah. Your presence right now is the gift because you have the power to change. Your future is not guaranteed. So remember, tell your loved ones you love them, do the things you really want to do today. I'm not saying abuse your body because this is the temple. This was a gift given to you. Yeah. It's not yours to abuse. It was given to you by a superior being, by a power greater than us. And it wants the best for you. But if you're not giving, if I ask the builder to build with subpar materials, I can't blame the builder. I got to deliver to him the best materials. Yes. And then he will build the best materials for you. You will be the best version of yourself. And when you start looking at it, it's not a loss. You can't have candy. Sugar is the worst thing for the brain, by the way. And I'll give a few tips.
That would be great. That would be great.
One is when you wake up in the morning, you should be drinking mineralized water, which means take Celtic salts and drink at least a 16-ounce glass of water. Remember, your brain shrunk 3/4 of an inch. Then do some kind of physical workout because you want to move the sugar that's in the cells out of the cells, get them to work for you. You need to train the cells. So you do some kind of physical workout. If you can, push weights and do something physical resistance, like the resistance bands we've talked about before, things like that. Do something that's going to do it. I use something called Vision Body. But when you do these things, that clears out the body. Now, the next time you eat a meal, all that sugar that's circulating in your system has a place to go. If it doesn't have a place to go because you're sitting on the couch or you're fearful, it's going to go into the adipose tissue. It has to. It doesn't have a choice. And if you're stressed out all the time, your liver continuously pumps out sugar. I've never met anyone yet in the world that has a carbohydrate deficiency. Don't worry about it. You're not going to have a deficiency in carbohydrates. Your body actually can make all the sugar you need. But if your liver holds this because your liver controls 300 functions of the brain. So when you're in a stress response, the liver dumps the sugar into the system. Now what happens is your body has to create through its system the fat storage system, because now all that sugar is dumped in the bloodstream. It has no place to go. So when diabetics say, I can't believe I have diabetes, I never eat sugar. No, you get stressed all the time. It's not what you're eating, it's what's eating you. So we've got to deal with what's eating you and realize it's not happening to you, but it's happening through you. So, and now one thing you can do, there's a lot of things you can do, but one of the quick and dirty things you can do, hopefully you're eating some greens every day. Instead of putting salad dressing on them, throw those away. Those are worse than a Coca-Cola. There's so much sugar in them. Even the best you think are the best. Go get yourself some really good olive oil and make sure it's really good olive oil. Don't buy some cheap stuff. You can buy it from California and make sure that it's got the peel. A lot of times it says it's from Italy, but if you really look at it, it's from Spain. Don't buy that stuff, because what it is, it's seed oils are the worst thing for the body, for the brain. So you want to but olive oil does something incredible. They've done studies. If you can have 1 tablespoon of olive oil a day, your chances of dementia went down 40%.
Hmm.
And what you do is you put in like salt and pepper and Italian seasoning on it. And then think of your foods just when you go, just like Lillian's little logo up there, that purple. Foods that are purple or blue, those are brain foods. And make sure they have God's wrapper on them, not somebody else's, because the other wrappers have foods in them. If you can't read the ingredients, your body can't digest them.
Correct.
If it comes in a canned bottle or a wrapper with words you can't read, your body isn't digesting them. So go to the section, go to the perimeters of the aisle, get foods that are made by God, not messed up by man, to make them stand on the shelf. I mean, when something can stand on the shelf for 15, 20 years, what's going on? What's going on in the body? So eat as fresh as you can and do the best you can. Don't beat yourself up, because every meal you have an opportunity to become a fat burning machine or fat storage machine. So take your chance to do that.
Oh, this is wonderful. This is great news. Okay, so for those of you who would like to try BrainTap without a headset, without this headset, you can do it with your phone. Just make sure you have a headset. That is very important that you have you can't just listen to it by, just leaving it on the speakerphone. You must have a headset. And this is something that you can do every day. So you're saying that when you first get started doing BrainTap, you can do it for 3 times a day? Is that
Yes.
is that what, and this is the
Yeah.
beginning.
You
And
can do it up
the
to 5 times a day, but you really don't want to do that. You want to listen in the morning to an SMR track. They're already separated for you. And
Okay.
then you want to do an afternoon reboot. If you can't do it at 2 o'clock, then do it at 5 o'clock when you get home from work, or 6 o'clock, because you're going to have energy. It's an energy equation.
Mhm.
And then make sure you do the one in the evening at night.
So
And
it'll
what
help you
you'll do, if you
rest.
do that consistently for 14 days, our average user does 27 sessions a month. And only the history of time, our worst month ever was a 4% churn in our app, which
Mhm.
means less than 4% ever quit over the
Mhm.
history of time.
Wow.
So they're using it, they're getting a benefit, but you have to use it. Sometimes the first time through, you might be a little confused, just like learning. But the second time through, your brain goes, "Hey, I've done this before. I understand the
Yeah.
algorithm. I'm getting
Well,
my
we
brain."
have to unwire. We have to untangle the brain, and it takes a while. What is the cost of the app if once the 15 days or 14 days,
It's 29.95 a month
so
at
for
that point, and the
$30 a
whole
month?
family can use it. And
Yeah.
the nice thing is that little Jimmy can use it for school, because we have sessions for that. If you're using it for some kind of health benefit, but you play golf or sports, we have a whole program now for brain tap sports. So
Yeah.
there's all sorts of things. You don't have to use it for problems. You don't have to have problems to improve your brain. And we have a
No.
lot of them that are just music only. We have over 500 sessions now that use solfeggio frequencies. We didn't even talk about frequencies, but we have solfeggio
Well, you're
frequencies.
just gonna have to come back.
Yes.
Pat. You're gonna have to come back so we can talk a little bit more, because I want to be, you can go to my Shop Now bag. You'll find the logo there for Brain Tap in there, because this is something that I want all of us. And for some people that say, "Oh, neurofeedback is so expensive," how about this? less than $30 a month. You're able to do everybody. So it's unlimited, right? You can use it as
That's right.
many times. That is such a great deal. Patrick, we only have about a minute left. Is there anything you'd like to add before we go about BrainTap and understanding how powerful our mind is?
Yeah. Well, I think just realize that you're more powerful than you've been led to believe. People have sold you short. You are superhuman. God didn't make any junk. You're not out of place. You're not displaced. You're just going through the dark night of the soul if you're having trouble right now. There's never been a superhero on earth, any comic book, that didn't have to go through some kind of struggle. That's actually the hero's journey that Campbell talks about. And so we're all going through that. It's kind of a prototype for us. And just realize that you're here for a reason, for a purpose. You're learning something. If you do the trial, you can always go back to what doesn't work. But try this out. You've got to change something. My dad used to say, change something and evaluate it. If it works for you, keep doing it. If it doesn't, then find something else. For most people, for over 90% of the people, they like BrainTap.
Yeah.
You might be one of those ones that don't like it, but you won't know until you try it. Download the app, start using it. If you get good results with the app, then you're probably going to want to get the headset because it's going to put it on
Yeah, I
steroids.
love the headset. I love the headset, and I love all the lights in the ears and the eyes. And so you utilize all the senses. And I want to encourage all of you to check out the link. If you're a subscriber, then all you have to do is click on the blog. It'll take you straight there. Sign up, register, start your free trial, and start setting your brain free from the privacy of your own home. And again, remember, you're in control. And like Patrick says, if something is going on right now in your life, just know that what God intends for harm, what man intends for harm, God intends for good. Just know that there's a reason why you heard today's class and felt Patrick's energy in the entire time. It's like it's been the same level, and I've always known him to be at that level, whether he's on the camera or behind the camera. I just absolutely am so grateful that he is here today. And thank you, Patrick, I wish I had longer time to just interview, because there's a lot of information. I want to encourage all of you to listen over and over and over again until you understand that God gave you the power to create and the power to heal. And this is a tool that you can use to kind of get your brain to know the truth. And so thank you so much, Patrick, for everything that you've done to help our brain unwire so that we can rewire it in God's truth. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Well, you're welcome. I'm glad to be here.
Yes, and please remember, we'll be right here waiting for you. Check out the link and start your process of, if $30 is too much for you, then I understand. Just look at everything else that we're spending money in, and I promise you will find it. And please remember, we will be right here waiting for you worldwide at whenyounneedafriend.com. This is Lily McDermott and Dr. Patrick Porter wishing you love, peace, joy, and unexpected abundance. Make it the best day ever. Good job. Good job. You're the best.
The opinions and advice expressed on the Lillian McDermott radio show are intended for the individual callers and guests on the program and are presented to our wider audience solely for general educational purposes. Please act responsibly and consult personally with your own medical, psychological, or nutritional expert before taking any steps to improve your life.